Many things contributed into making Nero such fun, interesting and unique character in DMC4, but gameplay wise, without a doubt the most important was the fact that as players we were able to use his devil arm to grab, throw and slam enemies on the ground, either big or small, with such ease. A feature that is returning back to DMC5, but this time since Nero's arm was cut off, as we saw in the early trailers, by a hooded person that is believed to be Virgil. Nico will be the one that will provide Nero with all sorts of DevilBreakers as well as other abilities with the use of a payphone that will be available throughout the map and presumably before an encounter with boss battles, similar to how divinity statues used to behave in DMC4. Hey, Rise and Shine YouTube, my name is Tsele and welcome to my Devil May Cry 5 video where all the DevilBreakers that were announced at an official Capcom event so far will be discussed. So with that being said, let's jump right into it.
This is a trial from the heavens above.
So the very first one that Nero is gonna have access to is called Overture. As far as Nico's concerned, simply because it's the very first one that she ever produced, thus, as it goes by the name, it marks the beginning of all the great things that she got planned. Essentially, when Nero will be using the Overture, will be able to perform a move called Battery, in which depending on the state and direction of the enemy, the move will change accordingly by shaping a hand that will push enemies far away. Moving on to the second DevilBreaker, we find the Gerber. The idea with the Gerber is that when it is used by Nero while in battle, it immediately opens wide and looks like a freaking flower, which is exactly from where it took the name. What's pretty interesting with the Gerber is that there are two different moves that Nero can perform, such as Steam Ray, a huge white blast that can be done on the ground, and Pedo Ray, a bunch of laser beams that move into different directions while Nero is airborne. One thing that must be kept in mind for the Pedo Ray is that when it is used in a closed environment, such as the interior of the cathedral in the Goliath boss battle that was showcased in Gamescom, every time a beam hits a wall and bounces back, it gets more powerful and it causes more damage to the enemy. Knowledge in these minor details can be proved rather crucial in completing more difficult modes in a higher stylish rank. Next up, the punchline. Probably for the time being and until we have a look at all the available DevilBreakers upon the game's release, my favorite one. Basically what punchline does is that it becomes a sick rocket and beats the crap out of enemies. But what makes this DevilBreaker so interesting is the fact that when it is open it makes Nero look like a total badass, since he can call it back and ride it like a skateboarder on the air by performing flips, tricks and rolls while hitting enemies, which probably at the very end will provide more points and therefore a better stylish rank. How awesome is that? Now this is the Tomboy. In order to express it as simple as possible, the Tomboy has two parts on the DevilBreaker. The one, it helps in accelerating every single bullet that comes out of the blue rose even more, thus making it incredibly powerful. While the second part, it really powers up the Red Queen. Essentially, the whole idea with the Tomboy is that it powers up in such a huge level the Red Queen and the Blue Rose that puts Nero in a situation that he can't control them. Very important to mention is that because of this uncontrollable situation, Nero is not going to be able to lock onto the enemies while using the Tomboy. So this is something that must be kept in mind. The fifth and very interesting DevilBreaker, it goes by the name Ragtime. So basically this DevilBreaker gives Nero the ability to manipulate time and to put enemies into a stasis. giving him the chance to perform all kinds of moves without interruptions within a short amount of time. It is mentioned by Hideaki Itsuno, the director of DMC5, that this DevilBreaker houses demonic power inside, but it is unknown yet how it was crafted and raises a lot of questions on what impact this information is gonna have in the story. I am speculating it will be something big, but I guess we're gonna have to patiently wait for the game to come out to find out. Number 6. Meet the Helter Skelter. The shape of this DevilBreaker reminds so much of a drill, and in reality that is exactly what it is. When it opens up, there are 3 different stages with different power level each. As it is logical, the higher the number of the stage, the harder and deeper Nero will be pushing and drilling inside the enemy's body, resulting into complete destruction, which is absolutely brutal. Again, Hideaki Itsuno steps in to give another tip regarding this DevilBreaker, in which he specifically mentions that the player will have to mash the dedicated key on the controller as fast and as hard as possible in order to achieve the 3rd and most crazy brutal stage to massacre the enemy. Last but not least, from the official reveal at Capcom's event is Rawhide, a DevilBreaker that can be categorized very close to Punchline in terms of coolness and awesomeness. Rawhide has 2 different states, the open and the closed one. When it's at the open state, it actually becomes a really sick looking whip that knocks enemies on top of each other and eventually on the ground. One thing that the player must be aware of when using this DevilBreaker is that because of how powerful this move is, after Nero is done with the breakage move, the DevilBreaker will eventually break, leaving him exposed. Therefore, a quick dodge or fast hit with the Red Queen or the Blue Rose will be necessary for the upcoming enemy attacks to be avoided. Now, from several screens and a few trailers that were released so far, it is believed that more DevilBreakers will be available after the game launches on March 8, 2019. But then again, this information is something that I guess we'll have to wait to see, and for sure we'll learn in the upcoming months. So there you have it, guys. That's all the information that I gathered from all the DevilBreakers that will be presented into the game so far. So now I want to ask you guys to write down in the comment section which one is your favorite and which one you'll find the most useful. With that being said, I really hope that everyone's gonna have an amazing day or night, whatever you're going to do, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.
Perfect timing.